We are back inside City Hall talking with our Friday's Reporters Roundtable. And Fred Dicker, let's go back to you in Albany. Some week for you on Monday morning, I pick up the newspaper, and you drove the media coverage this week of Governor Patterson as far as on announcing that he would have his special budget address on Tuesday. On Wednesday, he had his budget director with him. On Thursday, he had a trip to Washington saying things are almost as bad as the Great Depression. Is this effort by Governor Patterson going to succeed?
Well, it's a modest effort when you look at it carefully, at least in terms of the special August 19 session, Dominic. He's asking the legislature to cut $600 million out of a $122 billion budget. That's not what you call a heavy lift, in my judgment. And I think he's using hyperbole to compare the current situation to the Great Depression, or what he said was the recession of 40 years ago, which would have placed it in 1968 in the middle of the Vietnam War when we had guns and butter, and I don't recall a recession back then, but maybe I don't remember clearly. I thought he was overstating it. Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver made the case that he was overstating it. That said, it does appear he's acting responsibly. We do have a very serious problem, the collapse of Wall Street profits and the likelihood of a massive shortfall in Wall Street bonuses, maybe $20 billion less than last few years. It's a very serious problem, gaping holes in coming fiscal years for New York, but no imminent disaster for the state, in my judgment.
Tom, a bit too alarmist?
No question, it's too alarmist. Fred's exactly right. It's hype, and he's doing it on purpose, and it's not such a bad thing. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. As Fred and others pointed out this week, we had a governor who was basically asleep at the switch before Eliot Spitzer in terms of George Pataki's response when there was a downturn in the early 90s. And George Pataki refused to take the budget by the reins and try to do something about it. At least we've got a governor now who's talking about it. The downside is, and this is something that we're going to get to real painfully, I think, real soon, is that this is a governor who at the same time is talking about a property tax cap, at the same time that he's talking about the fact that we're looking at $1 billion shortfall. So he's looking to score clearly political points with trying to enact some kind of property cap, at the same time of trying to basically rein in spending and try to keep the budget under control. I don't think he can do both of those.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about a property tax cap. He's ruling out a surtax on millionaires, which some have been pushing for. And then he's got Shelley Silver, the Speaker of the Assembly, saying, hey, let's wait a few weeks, which I interpreted as meaning let's wait till after the primaries, after some of the political business is settled, before we take a look at this. So, the urgency that he tried to generate this week, which I think he had very valid reasons to do so, both substantively and politically, I think he's going to have a hard time maintaining that momentum.
John?
Yeah, I just think it seems like smart politics to me. I mean, exaggerating the extent of the difficulties both creates, as Errol was saying, gives them the sense of urgency, and urgency is a great political tool. I mean, it lets you get some running room and allows you to be able to do some things you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And secondly, I think it's kind of like that hostess in the restaurant who comes up and says your table's going to be ready in an hour, and when she comes up and it's actually 15 minutes, you're incredibly thrilled, to hear that. And I think he's setting us up for the disaster and calamity. And when it turns out that the recession is actually a soluble, normal, cyclical thing, and we look up a year from now, it's like, hey, he did a great job. Wasn't he telling us it was going to be a catastrophe? He must have done something right.
Very interesting. Hey, Fred, let me go back to you here. We only have a minute and a half left, gentlemen. We are seeing some early tensions play out between Democrats. Governor Patterson, Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver. What are the dynamics here of that relationship? What's happening?
Well, it's not a happy relationship, and there's no question they're on a collision course right now. They have different priorities. Shelley Silver is really representing the traditional Democratic constituency. There's the labor unions and others that do not want to see reductions in state spending. I think David Patterson's trying to craft an image for himself to run for election in 2010. He's getting support from the Senate Republicans. It's an ironic situation, and I think come August 19th, if the governor doesn't get what he wants, then he's going to be a loser. And if Shelley Silver has to give in to the governor, then Shelley's going to be a loser. I think they're on a collision course.
Now, finally, Fred, what's the wrap, or what are you hearing in Albany about the relationship between Governor Patterson and his longtime friend, if you will, the minority leader of the state Senate, Malcolm Smith?
Well, there's been a lot of writing about that recently. The public relationship, which is one of friendship, is not the reality. There are real tensions there. Many people think that Governor Patterson wants the Republicans to keep control of the Senate, as ironic as that is. And privately, there are real tensions between the two men. We're told that Governor Patterson doesn't exactly have a high personal regard for Malcolm Smith.
Very interesting. Gentlemen, we can go on all night about Albany and about the presidential race, but we are out of time. Gentlemen, please have a lovely weekend. And on that note, it is time for a break. I will be back with the results of tonight's Snap poll. Stay with us.